Have you ever wondered why you speak the language you do? Welcome to Emomiti channel. Thanks for watching this video. Or why certain traditions exist in your culture. The answer might be rooted in colonial history. For centuries, powerful empires, mostly from Europe, spread their influence across the globe, leaving an undeniable mark on the world we know today. Colonialism isn't just about dusty textbooks and dates. It's about understanding how the past continues to echo in the present, shaping our identities, societies, and the very fabric of our globalized world. So buckle up, because we're about to embark on a fascinating, and at times difficult exploration of how colonialism shaped our world in ways we still feel today. Let's dive in. Imagine this. You've lived on your land for generations, your ancestors' stories woven into the very fabric of your being. Then, suddenly, outsiders arrive. They claim your land as their own, impose their rules, and tell you your way of life is wrong, backwards, even savage. This was the reality for countless indigenous communities around the world. When European colonizers arrived, they didn't just take land, they dismantled existing cultures. Indigenous languages, often the very soul of a community, were banned from schools and government institutions. Sacred rituals and ceremonies passed down through generations were outlawed and labeled as pagan or barbaric. Many indigenous communities are engaged in a difficult fight to revitalize their languages, to piece together the fragments of their cultural heritage, and to reclaim their rightful place in a world that tried to erase them. Colonial powers implemented their own systems of education, often designed to instill loyalty to the empire and to devalue indigenous knowledge and history. Colonialism wasn't just about political control or economic exploitation. It was about the attempted annihilation of entire cultural identities. Let's talk about the economic engine that fueled colonial expansion. Colonial economies were built on a foundation of exploitation, designed to funnel wealth and resources from colonized lands to European empires. Imagine a pyramid at the top, the colonial elite, a small group of European officials and merchants who controlled the levers of power. Below them, a complex social hierarchy, with European settlers occupying positions of privilege and power over indigenous populations. This racial hierarchy justified inequalities, determining access to education, land ownership, and even basic human rights. Colonial laws were often discriminatory, favoring European settlers and creating a system where indigenous populations were treated as second-class citizens in their own land. Resources were extracted, often through forced labor, and shipped off to Europe to fuel industrial growth. Local industries were suppressed, preventing colonized nations from developing their own economies. Taxes were levied, further draining wealth from these communities. This legacy of economic exploitation continues to cast a long shadow on many post-colonial nations today. Let's get into the nitty-gritty of how this economic exploitation played out. Colonial powers treated their colonies like giant piggy banks, ready to be cracked open and plundered. Take the British East India Company's domination of India. The company, with its private army, enforced its will, forcing Indian farmers to grow cash crops like cotton and indigo, which were then shipped off to British factories. Meanwhile, India, once known as the breadbasket of the East, faced food shortages and famines as its own agricultural land was diverted to serve the needs of the empire. Across Africa, vast reserves of rubber, diamonds, gold, and other resources were extracted, often through brutal forced labor systems. This focus on extracting raw materials meant that colonies were prevented from developing their own industries and manufacturing capabilities. This legacy of resource drain continues to affect many post-colonial nations. It's easy to think of colonialism's impact solely in terms of human cost. But the environment too bore the brunt of these exploitative practices, often with devastating and long-lasting consequences. Imagine a lush rainforest, teeming with life, razed to the ground for rubber plantations or timber extraction. Deforestation became rampant, stripping the land of its natural resources and leaving behind a trail of ecological devastation. Soil erosion, loss of biodiversity, and disruption of water cycles were just some of the consequences. The introduction of non-native species, often for agricultural purposes, further disrupted delicate ecosystems, leading to the decline or even extinction of native plants and animals. The environmental degradation caused by colonialism wasn't just a local problem, it had global implications. Let's talk about maps. During the age of colonialism, maps became powerful tools, not just for navigation, but for control and division. European powers, in their scramble for territory, carved up continents with little regard for existing ethnic, tribal, or religious boundaries. They drew lines in the sand, creating artificial borders that lump together diverse groups with long histories of conflict or separated communities with shared cultural ties. This haphazard approach to map-making had devastating consequences. It created tensions and rivalries that continue to plague many post-colonial nations today. Ethnic conflicts, often fueled by competition for resources or political power, can be traced back to these arbitrarily drawn borders. These arbitrary borders also created challenges for national unity and identity. The story of colonialism isn't solely one of oppression and exploitation. Amidst the darkness, there were also moments of cultural exchange, moments that, while often fraught with power imbalances, shaped the world we know today. When different cultures collide, they inevitably leave their mark on one another. Languages blend, creating new dialects and pidgins. Culinary traditions fuse, giving rise to innovative dishes that tantalize our taste buds. Music and dance forms intermingle, producing vibrant new artistic expressions. But it's crucial to remember that this exchange wasn't always equal or voluntary. While we can appreciate the richness and diversity that emerged from these cultural encounters, we must also acknowledge the power dynamics at play and the lasting impact of colonial influence on cultural identities. We've talked about the dark side of colonialism, the exploitation, the oppression, the lasting scars. But here's the thing about human beings: we're remarkably resilient. Throughout history, people have risen up against oppression, demanding freedom and self-determination. Across the globe, from the Americas to Africa to Asia, movements for independence gained momentum. People, tired of being ruled by distant empires, yearned for the right to govern themselves, to shape their own destinies. Think of figures like Mahatma Gandhi in India, who advocated for non-violent resistance against British rule, or Kwame Nkrumah in Ghana, who led his country to independence from Britain. These leaders, and countless others who fought for liberation, inspired generations and helped to dismantle the structures of colonial rule. Post-colonial nations face the daunting task of rebuilding their societies, healing the wounds of the past, and forging new paths forward. Many post-colonial nations have struggled with political instability, economic challenges, and ongoing legacies of colonialism. As we wrap up this exploration of colonialism, it's clear that the world we live in today is a product of its past. The borders we see on maps, the languages we speak, the food we eat, the challenges we face, all of these have been shaped in some way by the complex and often brutal legacy of colonialism. By understanding this history, by acknowledging the lasting impacts of colonialism on cultures, economies, and environments, we can begin to engage in more meaningful conversations about global inequality, social justice, and the interconnectedness of our world. It's not about dwelling on the past, but about learning from it, about recognizing the mistakes that were made and working towards a future where all cultures are respected, all voices are heard, and the injustices of the past are never repeated.